Hey there. So I've never done this before. I did not expect to be coming back here, but I feel like I need to add a little more to episode 239. So this is episode 239.5. And the reason is that I recorded my thoughts originally on Sunday, which was before we heard the news in the Disney Parks blog story today, as I'm recording this, that the new Cars Land would replace Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America at the Magic Kingdom. This doesn't change my ranking since it was already at number 24 out of 25. It really just solidifies it, actually. I'm going to give my thoughts here kind of quickly. I'm not going to bother with the theme music or anything else. This is kind of like an extra part, basically, at the end of the other podcast. I just thought I'd put it separately in case you'd already listened to the first one, rather than updating that one. But just wanted to give some thoughts about this additional news and how it kind of impacts my feelings about the whole night, really, but especially about the new Cars Land coming to the Magic Kingdom and how this changes the Magic Kingdom overall. So this is basically like an epilogue to the previous episode. So let's start out with the news and how it came out. Okay, so this came from a Disney Parks blog article called New Details Revealed for Largest Expansion at Magic Kingdom. It was published on Monday morning. Just as a reminder, the big announcement from Disney came Saturday night during this big, epic 2.5 hour, the whole thing. If you've listened to episode 239, you would know. But if you just haven't, and I talked all about there, I ranked 25 announcements. I was generally pretty positive with a few exceptions, like things they omitted and everything else. I wasn't super excited about the Cars Land, but I got it. I was kind of thinking of it as it's part of Beyond Big Thunder, where it kind of goes way back. But no, we found out with new concept art that looks pretty cool, actually. It has a big mountain and a racetrack and everything. You got Big Thunder in the background. But if you look at it closer, you realize, hey, wait, where is this? Where is this new Cars Land, not even Cars Land for California, a new different land related to the Cars franchise going to go? So if you recall, Josh D'Amaro on Saturday night didn't say anything about what this new Cars expansion will replace. And that kind of fit with most things. The only time the exception was where he did mention you would still have time to ride Dinosaur with the Tropical Americas expansion, but people already knew where that was going. You didn't hear about anything else. So this wasn't different from a lot of other things. However, I felt like this was particularly not great because Josh basically didn't say anything about replacing the Rivers of America or Tom Sawyer Island during Saturday night. He called it a new area in Frontierland. This feels a little bit like a cop-out, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this extra show. But first, in case you haven't read it, which I will link it in the show notes here, here's the blurb from the Disney Parks blog that really hits home this point. It's time to leave Radiator Springs and head west into exciting new locations. To make way for this completely new frontier, the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island will be transformed into vast and rugged terrains for a rally race with some of the world's most iconic racers. Transform seems to imply something different than I think what is happening. They're being basically removed. It's not going to be the same at all. They're being replaced. Here's one other thing they added. Ahead of work revving into high gear next year, guests will have plenty of time to experience the charm and nostalgia of Frontierland as it is today. Okay, so it sounds like construction is going to begin next year. I have a few main thoughts. First of all, let's talk about Saturday night and the omission from Josh and the group of where this land was going to go. Like I said, I thought it was going to be part of Beyond Big Thunder, but they never said the words anytime that this would be beyond it. So they didn't lie. They just made no mention. Now, this was obviously intentional because they knew this wouldn't be a popular decision. It was also a pretty muted reaction, even from the crowd, at least that I noticed from what I heard the people in the room, that there was more Cars attractions. People didn't seem that excited. This was very different than when they announced the Monsters, Inc. coaster or Villains Land. People were just thrilled and cheering. Oh my gosh, they were so excited. But if they had announced, similar to what they've done in the past, I think they announced the Great Movie Ride closure, but I'm not 100% sure. But they have made announcements in the past about things being replaced. People didn't like it. This would have been a hostile reaction, I have a feeling, from certain segments, not from everyone, but from certain segments, the fact that it was removing the Rivers of America. They could have shared this concept art on Saturday, but they instead gave us closer looks like pictures of the attractions and talk about that. Now, I totally understand why Disney didn't share this news. If you're having this big pep rally and you're trying to charm your biggest fans, you don't want to give them bad news. It's like a baseball team. When they're announcing, oh my gosh, we signed the biggest free agent ever, in the future, Juan Soto has signed. And they're not going to spend a bunch of time at the press conference telling fans, hey, so we signed this guy for $300 million. All ticket prices are going to $25. They're not going to do that. It's just they're not going to give you the bad news, even though that's the implication, I'm sure, that there's something like that. So Disney's really presenting this big party with this incredible news. And a lot of the news was great, but they're not going to take time to say, oh, by the way, there's something that's been in the park since 1971, and we're going to remove it for this Cars Land that none of you really care about that much. That you're like, oh, that's kind of cool that we do it. Whatever. There might be a fun attraction. Okay, that's kind of how I was. I was like, well, I don't really love cars, but okay. But this also raises additional questions for me. I already wondered, where's Coco going at DCA? Where's the new Avatar land? Now, I was very excited about Avatar. I'm pretty excited about Coco. So, that's cool. I'm excited about this. And then I'm hoping, I think we've confirmed, but I'm not sure, that Monstropolis at the Hollywood Studios is going to go where Launch Bay was or some area like that. It's not going to go in something like Muppet Vision or something we really like. But is there something else we don't know that's going to annoy us? That's the thing. By not giving us this information in some way, it makes me think, I'm not trying to raise conspiracy theories or something, but it does make me question a lot of what we learned on Saturday. Is there other news that we just didn't know about? I kind of feel a little hollow or a little sad about it, which I don't want to feel that way because I was so pumped. After Saturday night, we watched that. I mean, yes, it was on kind of a weird live stream and everything, but I had a hard time falling asleep. And that thing went till Central Time here, went to almost midnight. So I was like, this is great. And it doesn't mean now because of this that I'm not super pumped about the Villains Land or about Avatar, about Monsters or whatever. There's a lot of cool stuff. I'm excited that Disney is still putting their best foot forward. But I will say that I have some concerns. I mean, Disney, they love to bring out the Walt Disney quote about Disneyland never being completed. I even did a blog post where I just compiled all these examples and all these funny examples of when they've done it. Okay, that's cool. But this feels very different than a lot of other changes. For example, Disney is adding a new show next year to the Disneyland Opera House with a Walt Disney animatronic. And now in Florida, they're removing a big part of kind of his initial ideas and what he put into his original Disneyland park. Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America were a key part of Disneyland right from the start in 1955. And so now we're talking within a year, let's say, they're going to be gone. And, and I don't want to be, this is the thing about it. I really try to push back on my head. It's very easy to get reactionary. And to get I even question whether or not I should even record this. I felt like I'm feeling a little too hot about this. This is like when, Frozen was coming from Maelstrom or whatever else, things that now kind of look a little silly in hindsight, but at the time really bothered me, and I wasn't as invested when Mr. Toad went away, but that idea. And I understand you sometimes got to lose attractions. When the new hotness comes in, things are going away, but this still feels different than losing Dinosaur. And I like Dinosaur. I wish there was a way we could have Indiana Jones and also Dinosaur, though I know the ride system is the same. But I'll say personally, I've just I really like the Liberty Square Riverboat. And this isn't because I have nostalgia. Oh, I rode it with my dad in 1985. My parents liked it, but it wasn't one of the big ones they liked. This is me as an adult. I'm 48 years old. And I just really like this break from the crowds and getting away and having these cool views of the park. There's so much ambience. So even I know Disney does the numbers and the riverboat probably gets percentage of people for capacity, one of the lowest in the park. That's just my guess. And that's why they're ultimately one of the reasons why they're replacing it. Same with Tom Sawyer Island. I'm sure they go, hey, we used to get this many people per hour and now we get this many. So I get that. But even people that don't go on the riverboat, having the riverboat go around, having that water feature is important. To me, it adds the ambiance. It adds the world of move. This is the problem we have in Tomorrowland and Disneyland without the people mover, is that it feels dead. It feels quiet. You don't have the things happening and moving around, which you still do in Florida because of the people mover. But again, you could look at that and be like, well, what ROI is it bringing in? Why the people mover doesn't sell merch? Now, granted, I don't think they're doing anything with the people mover. I'm just using that as an example. I admit I haven't been to Tom Sawyer Island as much. Even when my kids were little, we sometimes would go. But we did go to Pirates Lair at Disneyland. And again, it was just this nice break. But I think, from a business perspective for Disney, I totally understand. This is not me saying, why would they ever do this? They're so stupid. No, from a business perspective, the way they look at it is people expect us. We've got Epic Universe coming, whether they'll admit it or not. People expect us to make big swings, to add a bunch of, I hate to use the word, immersive lands to combat these big lands they have. So we're adding the villains, but we're also adding monsters. We're also adding Avatar at Disneyland. We're also in Orlando adding Cars. Second thing, Cars is not one of my favorite Pixar properties. I thought the first movie was fine. From there, third one was okay, but it kind of drifts around. But Cars still have a group of kids that is very popular, and from what I hear, the merch sells very well. Merchandise, obviously, extremely important. So you have this giant thing of water, if you're Disney from a business perspective, and you say, we can fill that in, one, with attractions, so we are adding capacity in a way because we're going to fill these versus before. And two, we can add food, we can add in shopping, we can add in all these other things that also get money. So Disney's looking at it as, we're investing this money, we're going to get this big ROI eventually. Not to get too much in the business side of it, it's going to sell a lot of merch and everything else. So from a strict business perspective, this makes sense. It also shows that Disney is committed to having this modern park and isn't just a place focused on nostalgia. Because that's the thing, where Universal has shown almost, they look back now. Lately, Universal has been looking back a lot at with its parades and with everything else and keeping E.T. and everything else. But for a while, Universal was willing to, for Harry Potter, we'll get rid of Jaws, whatever. We're going to get rid of things, Confrontation for the Mummy, whatever. Okay. So Disney kind of wants to do that. A lot of sense, they even just replaced Country Bear Jamboree. They want to do that. And part of me goes, I get it. You don't want to be known as the park that's just for old people or that's nostalgia or half the park is lame or they don't have any thrill rides or everything else. They've made a lot of inroads with Guardians of the Galaxy and Tron and everything. But you want it to be something younger people like, and maybe kids that saw Cars, they're going to now becoming young adults and having kids and everything else, and Cars continues to do well that way. Okay, I don't want to get too far into this. I don't want to turn this into an hour conversation, but I'm just saying I get all that. That is all there. But why this bothers me so much is I think you risk losing a lot of the charm by losing this giant water area. Even if they hit it out of the park, the concept art looks cool, you're losing the charm of having a water feature. All of the best, prettiest theme parks that I know of all have a significant element of water, especially on Disney's side. Disney's Animal Kingdom, Epcot Center, those two big water sections, Disneyland. The reason that I never find myself being as excited, and one of the reasons, by California Adventure, by when I was in the studios in Paris, though I know they're adding a bunch of water to that, by Hollywood Studios, is just not having water, not having more trees, not having it be prettier. Islands of Adventure, another great example. So much more comfortable and everything else. You don't really have that at least when we went to Universal Hollywood. I know Universal Studios does, but still a lot of boxy buildings. My point is, you risk losing a lot of the charm. Even if you put in all these things and you have waterfalls and raging things and everything, having this big bit of water with these boats going around it adds charm and ambiance that I think are really, really hard to replace. Really hard. It's just hard to explain how difficult that is to replace. And then also, too, one of the things Disney has done is find a way to appeal to a lot of different age groups. The Magic Kingdom still has done that very well. My dad just turned 80 last year. They went to Disney World in April. First time going since 2019, 2018. They don't move around as well, but they went to Magic Kingdom and still had a very good day. And you know what they did at the Magic Kingdom? Yes, they did Pirates and Haunted Mansion, but they did Tiki Room, they did Carousel of Progress, they did Hall of Presidents, Go on the Riverboat, all those types of attractions. They don't care about cars at all. And I know that's not Disney's target market right now, but I kind of feel that way too. I loved Tron when I went on it, But when I go to the Magic Kingdom, I just watched this video that Jenny Nicholson did about like top 10 lame things you could do at Disney World. And this was from like 6 years ago. And she didn't mention the riverboat, but it was in that vibe. It was that idea. So I think it seems so weird to say this, but in a weird sense, Disney really stands out and benefits from having things that are kind of lame to a lot of people. But that might really be cool for a 48-year-old guy who likes to stand on the riverboat, or grandparents, or even just parents with little kids that just want to hang out and let their kids sit in the stroller. We did it with our little kids on it. I don't think you bring a stroller, but you get the idea. It's good to have this. And to me, the combination of losing this level of charm in the park, especially from the Magic Kingdom, I'm less precious maybe about some of the newer parks and changing everything. And I know we still have this at Disneyland, and we also have the Columbia and the canoes and everything else. But I don't know. This really rings hollow to me. And the fact that they hit it, I know why they did it, and I get it from a business perspective and from we want everyone to gush and everything. I just heard Josh D'Amaro today was on Lou Magello's show. Lou Magello, who's just on this show. And interesting interview so far. I haven't listened to the whole thing. I was driving home when I listened to it. But Josh going on about listening to fans. And if I listened to that before I knew about Losing Rivers of America, it would feel a little different. And I'm not saying they don't listen. And he even talks about that people disagree and that's okay and all that. So I'm not trying to pick on him. This is a bigger company decision. But the Magic Kingdom is so popular, and I love the fact that they're trying to add new things to it. I think Tron added a lot to the Tomorrowland area. I love Tiana's. Haven't been on it yet, but I love the way it looks and what it's doing. I love that they did that. Even don't really care that much about Country Bear Jamboree, though I understand if people do. And Villains is going to be awesome. A lot of new stuff they've done has been cool. So I'm not trying to be precious about it. But this just feels different. And I haven't totally pinpointed why yet. Is it just that it's like if things are going so well, like let's say you got this new job and you're like, I'm killing it and everything else, and then you don't get a promotion or you get a bad review or whatever. Is this what this is? Is this just Disney announced all this stuff and I just so wanted to be so positive and happy about it, and am still, and then this undercut it, and now I'm like questioning, like, how do I feel about this? Well, I'm going to try and end this segment on a positive note. I try to stay optimistic, and I'm trying not to get cynical or petty. And, this is true in a lot of areas, whether it's politics, whether, my work, anything else. And when I'm a big fan of something like Disney theme parks, the last thing I want to do is feel bad about it. And that's where sometimes I've had to pull back from things like Twitter and some online message board and stuff because people are just so negative about it. And I don't have a problem being critical. If you've listened to this episode, you understand. But I'm still trying to see the hopeful side of this. I think Disney's going to pull out all the stops, make this Cars expansion and other plans amazing. I'm sure I'm going to have so much fun there, and that guests are going to love having all these new attractions to do. I like new stuff. It's cool. It's great Disney's finally started to invest in the parks, especially given the competition from Epic Universe. There's so much to like from what they announced. The news today kind of undercut it a bit for me. I'm still kind of grasping with how the Magic Kingdom's going to be without this. I know Disneyland still has it, and hopefully will for a long time, because they are a lot more precious. Just even seeing the fact that they're leaving in Great Wheel to Mr. Lincoln rotationally with the Walt Disney Show, it's another example of how they do things differently in California. But it still feels a bit weird now. So I'm just going to say this. I really would love to hear what you think about this change. And just about kind of this quick, freewheeling kind of, 15, 20-minute show. I don't plan to do this all the time, but I'm really curious what you think. So you can leave a comment on the blog for this show. Email me, dan@tomorrowsociety.com. Twitter, Facebook, all out there. Just, it'd be cool to hear how you're feeling about this. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm being too alarmist. Maybe I should just be like, hey, we're cool. Because again, I kind of am tired a little bit of people that just kind of say things used to always be better. That's not always true. In life especially, there's things now that are better. At theme parks, there are things that are better. It's different to remove an attraction. This feels like a really big change to change how that entire side of the park feels. It changes how Big Thunder feels. It changes how Tiana's is going to feel. So I don't know. We're going to see how it goes. But I thank you so much for listening to this show, as always. I know it's a little odd being this is episode 239.5, but really I'd love to hear what you think of it. Hope you're all doing awesome out there and that you're still excited. I'm still excited about so much of what they announced. This is not ruining the news. It's just giving me a little question mark in my head. But really, take care out there, and I'll talk to you again very soon.